You're listening to Inside of You with Michael Rosenbaum. How is everyone today? Ryan, how are you?
I am A-okay. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing all right, man. I've been exercising more, and I've noticed my anxiety has gone down a little bit.
Funny how that happens, isn't it?
Isn't it? We just talk and preach and bullshit, and then once you actually do it, you see, oh, well, I notice a little difference. Even if it's a small difference, it's a freaking difference, man.
Oh, yeah. You see these things at the bottom of my legs? If I move those around a lot, then the things you put
feet.
the feet.
Yeah.
If you sort of move those up and down,
yep,
and around and outside,
your heartbeat starts to go up.
It's crazy.
It's amazing. Guys, I hope you're taking care of yourselves. I hope you're, thanks for listening, whether you're in your car or you're at home or whatever. Thanks for tuning in. John Wesley Shipp coming up. Great guest. You know him from The Flash. You know him from Dawson's Creek. He talks about his relationship with Mark Hamill. He talks about, just anxiety, life. He was very open, and I love when the guests are open. You guys always write me and say, God, they were so open, and I love how you're able to open guests up, and they just either want to or not, and he seemed to open up quite a bit, and it was effective. It helped me. If you're liking the podcast, I urge you to spread the word, help the podcast out. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Instagram and Facebook is at Inside of You Podcast and at Inside of You Pod on the Twitter. And it's right here. You can see it. See that? And what else? You could watch on YouTube, but subscribe, write a review. It helps the show out and spread the word. Really, my patrons are the saviors of this podcast. So if you want to join Patreon and help the podcast in other ways, keep it rocking, go to patreon.com/inside. I'll send you a message right after.
Inside of You.
Oh, Inside of You. Patreon.com/inside of you.
That's right.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Patreon, it's like a family. You'll see it. There's like a lot of perks and tiers and things that you could do and to help the podcast in other ways. Patreon.com/inside of you. And if you want any merch, band merch is at sunspin.com. You could also Zoom me. I'm on Cameo. And also, if you want any merch from the Inside of You store, like Lex Luthor stuff, Smallville lunch boxes, Inside of You store, online, Inside of You online store, you can go there. Anything else, Ryan, going on in your life? Just busy?
I got back from
you were at a bachelor party.
I was at a bachelor party in San Diego.
Did you get drunk?
Yeah.
Was it fun?
It was a lot of fun.
And you didn't pass out or anything?
I didn't pass out. No. The group was, it was like an array of this guy's friends from like high school all the way to like professional. So it was like, it ran the gamut of dude.
Right.
So it was fun.
I'm glad you had a good time, man. That's good. Because last time you had a seizure.
I had a seizure on a beach and I ruined a bachelor party. This time I didn't. I was not the one who ruined the bachelor party. That was somebody else.
Well, I'm glad you're healthy. I'm glad but
actually, it wasn't ruined. It was we all had a good time. But
right,
yeah.
Except you.
I had a miserable time.
Yeah, you felt like you ruined everything.
That's right.
But I'm glad you had a good time this weekend.
I did have a good time.
It's good to get away, isn't it?
It was so weird to be around people and have conversations and. But yeah, we were all vaxxed and we all kept it within the group. Like we had a house and we did a brewery tour on a bus.
Jeez, and, that sounds like fun.
We went on a boat too. That was fun.
Really?
Yeah.
I need to take Dramamine when I get on a boat, just so I don't get a little motion sickness.
This was all right.
All right.
Just cruising around the San Diego Bay for 3 hours.
Sounds delightful.
It was.
San Diego's beautiful.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm glad you had fun, man. Hey, everybody, thanks for coming to Lexington Comic-Con. I had a blast. Tom Welling and I had a blast. We did Smallville Nights. It was hilarious and fun. If you ever get a chance to do Smallville Nights, I'm doing one in West Virginia on September 24th. I'll be there rocking the Mountaineer Comic-Con. And get your tickets. It's going to be a lot of people there. I'm doing a one-man show for Smallville Nights. It's going to be a lot of fun. Lot of freaking laughs. Let's get into this. John Wesley Shipp. This is a really fun interview. I hope you enjoy it. I know I did. Let's get inside of John Wesley Shipp. It's my point of view. You're listening to Inside of You with Michael Rosenbaum. Inside of You with Michael Rosenbaum was not recorded in front of a live studio audience. Hey, good looking. How are you?
I'm okay, I guess.
You guess? Where are you?
I'm in New York.
You're in New York. You live in New York.
Yeah, I live in New York. And hold on, I've got like messages coming in and it's blocking my audio. Did you say where?
Yeah.
Oh, Long Island City. That's like we see, if you can see the reflection in the picture behind me. So we got a view of this east side skyline of Manhattan.
Wow.
From the Queensboro Bridge all the way down to, I call it Fuck You Tower. They call it Freedom Tower. It looks like a big, right down to they replaced the World Trade Towers with.
Perfect. Did you just get tired of LA? Was LA something you were just like, I had enough of it?
I started my career in New York. I was at Indiana University actually on an opera theater scholarship in the voice
opera.
Yeah, baby. I started taking piano at 4. My first piano teacher taught me the alphabet so she could teach me how to play the piano. And then I was an opera theater major, and I switched my major to theater, dropped out, moved to New York in the late 70s, before you were born. And then,
I was born in 72. Thank you.
Oh, you were?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not that young.
Well, to me, you are.
Well, you look good, so who cares?
You know, I've gone through various phases, of looking. Like, someone actually wrote me on social media once, and they said, "You didn't age well. Sad."
What?
And I wrote back and I said, "Depending on when you caught me, you're absolutely right." Because, I've had my scary periods. And one was when I did Teen Wolf, but that Teen Wolf dad was such a friggin' psycho. And I was in a very dark period, but I looked terrible, but it worked.
Right.
But luckily I
clawed your way back.
Clawed my way back.
Hey, so, we have a segment we start out with guests now. We're just trying this. It's kind of a mental health check, and it's just called How You Doing? And it's just sort of like at this moment in time, with all the work you're doing and everything and just life in general, it's just kind of a check-in. How you doing?
I have to say, and without sugarcoating it, that, I'm on one hand kind of amazed that I'm still alive,
Really?
And, well, I've gone through, and nobody knows. It amazes me that nobody, but I've gone through my dark periods, mostly in the 2000s, right after I got off Dawson's Creek. But, a year of quarantine, a year of having one play canceled in Greenwich, another play that we were workshopping to bring to Broadway with producers about Henry Fonda and Jimmy Stewart. I had a Hallmark movie, an episode of a TV show, and 8 personal appearances wiped off the board. I'm not whining, because I have friends who do almost strictly theater, and they were wiped out. They're still hurting really bad, So yeah. I was able to go back to work February 2021 and do an episode, take my Jay Garrick to Stargirl.
Wow.
And then I just got back from 6 weeks in Vancouver, doing the last 2 episodes of season 7 for Flash. You asked me how I'm doing, and in typical fashion, I'm telling you what I'm doing. How I'm doing is I'm pretty damn grateful.
That's the way to be. Huh? That's what you got to be. I'm learning gratitude. No matter what, at the end of the day, before I close my eyes, and it helps me sleep, that I just start to think about what I'm grateful for. It's just weird how that works. Instead of getting in these dark dreams or these thoughts, I just go, wait, hey, stop. What are you grateful for? And I start naming things. I put my grandma's face in my head, and then I go to bed, and I sleep better. Yeah,
I have a good friend who's an actor, and you know how we are. I'm this way. I would bet you are. It's that, who's on a series, and he'll look at it and he'll hate everything he did. And he'll be telling his wife, God, I hate this. I didn't do this. I don't like it. And then she'll stop him. He just told me this. She'll stop him and say, okay, now tell me 5 things that you like about yourself. And she won't let him go to sleep on that negativity,
Wow.
tearing himself down.
Do you get like that? Are you someone who tears yourself down, or maybe that's something that was in your past? Are you really hard on yourself?
I find that the longer I wait between the time I did something and when I watch it, when I watch it, and I do, I can't stop, but I'm almost invariably, I've learned to manage it. But I remember when I did NYPD Blue, and it was such a big departure from anything I'd ever done. First season of NYPD Blue, the 2 episodes as the drug addicted cop. And I know what I intended. Now, it ended up being incredibly received and incredibly reviewed. But when I saw it, I was in LA and I got so upset, I jumped in the car and I drove to, it was either Idlewild or Lake Arrowhead, and just stayed in a motel. I was so disappointed and freaked out. Wow. It wasn't what I intended. And I still do that. Like, I'll watch, whether it's recently a Hallmark movie or an episode of The Flash, I'll watch it and I'll hate the way I look. I didn't accomplish. If I wait, I forget what I intended.
Right.
And I can appreciate what I did.
That's got to be tough. That's got to be really tough to.
Well,
Yeah, I'm really hard on myself too. I'm like, oh my gosh, look at and I started to. I mean, look, you don't ever let that go. I don't care who you are. People say, oh, come on, you got to let it go. You got to, it's. My friends will give me shit about that, but I try not to watch things right away. Like you said, give it some time. And then I actually can go back now. I hadn't seen an episode of Smallville in years. And I saw an old episode that was like on, it was Hulu. I go, why the hell not? And I go, I used to think you looked so terrible bald and you looked like shit. And hate it. And now I'm like, dude, you actually look all right. To be 10 years younger. To be Absolutely. 10 years younger. And watch it later.
You have to go back and watch your scenes with Glover and go, that is damn good TV. You have to say that is smoking.
I can notice nuances, moments when I, and that goes for my whole acting career, moments where you go, oh, you really let go. You were in that moment. You weren't thinking about looking cool. You weren't thinking about saying it a certain way. You were just being, and that's a rarity. But when I see that, I kind of, I give a small applause to myself inside. Yep. But that's rare. I don't do that a lot. Could you imagine if I'm just sitting there watching myself? Oh yeah. You're terrific.
It was very funny when we did the pilot for Flash, when they asked me to come back as Henry Allen, Barry's father, wrongly convicted of killing his mother in front of a 10-year-old Barry, which was not my origin story in 1990, Warner Brothers for CBS at all. So that was just a role I would want to do, whether I had never been Barry Allen or not. But having been Barry Allen, it brought those things together. It's like you talk about being in the moment, being close to who you really are, because it was a unique situation. I was playing his father. I had done this role. He knew I had played the role. I knew what he was taking on, maybe what some of his hopes and dreams and insecurities might be. And so there were times in those beautifully written scenes between Henry and Barry in the prison in Iron Heights that, I didn't know if Henry was talking to Barry, or if Old Flash was talking to New Flash, or if John was talking to Grant. And when those things all come together,
yeah,
it's really, then those scenes I can watch and go, they will always be among my favorite.
That's great. That's a great feeling too. Inside of You is brought to you by Geico. Geico is just omnipresent. They're everywhere, Ryan. And you know what?
What?
They have some really great stuff going on here, and it's all about convenience. So you should listen up. Whether you rent or own your own home, it's usually it's tough to pay the mortgage. You got a lot of bills. But Geico is doing something just really terrific. They had created a bundling policy for your homeowners or renters insurance along with your auto policy, so you could bundle it all together, have one easy payment. I like that. I need it in my life. It's simple, it's cheap, and all you guys have to do for this bundling policy so you can pay all of this at once for low rates is go to geico.com. You get a quote and you see how much you could save. It's Geico easy. Geico.com. Go to geico.com today. That's geico.com. Inside of You is brought to you by Helix Sleep. I don't know about you, but if I don't have a good night's sleep, I'm worthless. I'm completely worthless. I have back issues, I have neck issues, and I need a really comfortable mattress. And Helix is just the mattress for you, especially telling you from one guy who has a lot of back issues and things and has sleeping problems that, your mattress is the most important thing in the world. Helix Sleep has a quiz that takes just 2 minutes to complete. This is really great. It matches your body type and your sleep preferences to the perfect mattress for you. Why would you buy a mattress made for someone else? With Helix, you're getting a mattress that you know will be perfect for the way you sleep. Everybody's unique, and Helix knows that, so they have several different mattress models to choose from. They have soft, medium, and firm mattresses. Mattresses great for cooling you down if you sleep hot, or even a Helix Plus mattress for plus-size sleepers. I took the Helix Sleep quiz, and I'm a medium. I'm like porridge. I like the medium porridge, not too hard, not too soft. It's right there in the middle, and that's what I like. It's been awesome getting messages from so many of you that have purchased a Helix sleep bed, and I'm glad that you're enjoying it. So if you're looking for a mattress, just take this quiz. Order the mattress that you're matched to, and the mattress comes right to your door, shipped for free. You don't ever need to go to a mattress store again. Isn't that amazing, Ryan?
It's incredible.
It is. Helix is awesome, but you don't need to take my word for it. Helix was awarded the #1 best overall mattress pick of 2020 and by GQ and Wired magazine. And here's all you have to do. Go to sleep now, restfully. Just go to helixsleep.com/inside. Helix, Helix, sleep.com/inside. You take their 2-minute sleep quiz, and they'll match you to a customized mattress that will give you the best sleep of your life. And you have a 10-year warranty, so you could try it out for 100 nights, Ryan. 100 nights risk-free. They'll even pick it up from you if you don't like it.
That's pretty good.
That's
a great deal.
Good. I think that's a pretty great deal. Wow. Helix is offering up to $200 off all mattress orders and 2 free pillows for our listeners at helixsleep.com/inside. That's helixsleep.com/inside for up to $200 off and 2 free pillows. Helix Sleep. Inside of You is brought to you by NHTSA. It can be a little frustrating, especially if you're in a hurry or you're running late, to find yourself at a railway crossing waiting for a train. And if the signals are going and the train's not even there yet, you may feel a bit tempted to try and sneak across the tracks. Well, I'm telling you right now, don't do it. Ever. To the naked eye, trains often appear to be further away and moving slower than they are, and they can't stop quickly. Even if the engineer hits the emergency brakes right away, it can take a train over a mile to stop. By that time, it's too late, and the result is a potentially deadly crash. The point is, you can't know how quickly the train will arrive. The train can't stop quickly. Even if it sees you, it ends in disaster. If the signals are on, the train is on its way. And you just need to remember one thing. Stop. Trains can't. Brought to you by NHTSA. Do you look back and think, God, if we had the producers or the knowledge we have now, and if we had different producers or designers or whatever it is for the Flash of 1990 when you were there, this could have been something big. And also, how did you deal with that disappointment if it only lasted a year, right?
Yeah. Well, we had it all. We were the most expensive show Warner Brothers had ever done for television.
Oh, wow.
At that point. It was a high-tech suit designed by Oscar winner, Bob Short, and built. And our writing was great. Danny Bilson and Paul DeMeo were excellent. I mean, we had Howard Chaykin as a story editor. We had, I don't even want to start naming because we had so many great and talented people. And we were nominated for an Emmy for art direction.
Right.
When we did a big lot premiere on the back lot for the international press, our reviews were through the roof. I mean, Washington Post, New York Times, the big Louisville Courier Journal, you know,
Wow.
and they talked about the acting and they talked about the art direction and they talked about, at the time, state-of-the-art effects
Right.
for television. And so we were a creative and industry hit. Now, it was the hardest thing I have ever done. I mean, we would start at 7 a.m. Monday morning and work till 10 or 11 at night, come in 10 and 11 at Tuesday and work till 2 in the afternoon on Wednesday, come in at 2. And so by Wednesday or Thursday, we were shooting all night. By Saturday, we were blacking in the back lot at Warner Brothers to shoot day for night. And then we were back in at 7 a.m. Monday morning.
And you're in everything. You're in every day. I mean, you're the Flash.
I mean, our transportation department, whenever I thought I had it bad, I'd look at, you know, the fact that they were having 25, 26-hour days. I mean, our overtime was through the roof, and we were already budgeted. By the time we did that through the third week in August, through the second week in May, with 4 days off for Christmas, and that was it.
Wow.
Because we had to do mostly live action practical effects. We didn't have the CGI capability then that we have now. And so it was hours and hours and hours. And Danny and Paul were uncompromising. They wanted to do the show that they wanted to see. And so I can look at it today and I can appreciate the fact that the technology has come. It's 30 years later, one would hope.
Yeah.
You know.
And I think what I meant to say was, why didn't the stars align for that project? And now that hearing you say all this, you had all these great components of it. So why didn't it succeed? Has to be even more disappointing now. You're like, it was revered. It was all these things. So what was it?
Well, it was a combination of things. I think, number one, it was 30 years ago. Putting on a superhero costume in 1990 was very different from putting on a superhero costume in 2014 when the new CW show. We were like, I was hesitant to even audition for it because I had been on Broadway in New York. I had my 2 daytime Emmys. I had fashioned myself a series, and I thought only superhero reference I had was being spoofed at that point. And I just didn't think that was where my talent lay. And then April Webster, who I'm sure you know, multiple Emmy award-winning casting director, said, John, just read the script. That's all I ask. And then I read it, and there were all these human values. There was the unblessed son of a cop family in which real cops work the streets. But I had gone into the crime lab so that my mom didn't have to worry that all of her men might not come home that night. My older brother was the street cop who my dad loved, and my dad was always putting me down. So Barry was the unblessed son, in the family who gets these superpowers, and his first reaction is, I don't want to know from this. I have no desire to be a hero. I have no pretensions to be a hero. I have settled for my lot in life, and that's the deal, until his brother's killed. And then it's like, okay, it's on. And then he has all this ability that he knows his dad, it would make his dad so proud, but he can't tell him. So I'm starting to feel it, by about that point.
Right.
And then they promised me, we will not put you in a pair of red tights. I came to kind of regret that later because that suit was so hot. I'd be in it for 20 minutes and you could wring me out. But I don't want to, the last thing people want to hear is those of us who've been fortunate enough to play these iconic characters to sit around and whine about our suits.
Right.
But there were challenges, But I think it was a couple things. CBS had the oldest demographic, right? So all of our in-house advertising did not reach our target audience. Number two, they were too confident given our reviews from the preview that we did during the summer.
So they're pouring money into this. They're pouring money into this.
And they threw us into their most difficult time slot opposite Cosby and The Simpsons at their peak in 1990.
Wow.
And then, even so, we held a decent third place. And CBS said, if you can hold those numbers, In fact, the reviews were, the write-ups in the paper was Flash lifts CBS to strong ratings week, even though we were third in our time slot. But then we were off for baseball, World Series, for 2 weeks. And then we were back on, and then we were off for the Gulf War. Then they moved us to the half hour. An hour show on the half hour has never worked in the history of television. Then they moved our night. It was kind of good news, bad news in May when I had flown back to New York. Last scene with Mark Hamill, 5 a.m. We're trying to get the last shot as the sun was coming up. They yell, cut. I rip the wings off and throw them in the air and swear I'll never get into another superhero suit as long as I live. So it was kind of the bad news is the Flash isn't going a second season. The good news is the Flash isn't going a second season. It was just, I would be standing under the shower at 6 o'clock, not knowing whether it was AM or PM. I mean, it took us 9 days.
You were going crazy. Going crazy.
Isn't
that amazing how fast the body and the mind can just deteriorate? I mean, you probably didn't have any time to exercise really. You're trying to, and you're just physically, mentally exhausted. And that's where you realize I can't do this anymore. So it's a blessing in disguise. You got good reviews, you did this show, and it was killing you in a way. And you're like sort of relieved.
Yeah, there was definitely an element of relief. Although I realized going into second season, I had already, after the first several episodes, set some ground rules as far as the first day of the shooting the series. I think I was in the suit for 12 hours. And then at 2 a.m, they pulled me out of the suit for me to do the Barry Allen scenes. Well, I'm fried by that point, And then at times they would go, Barry Flash, Barry Flash. Ooh. So they would glue it on. They take it off with acetone. They put on makeup. They take the makeup off. They put the glue back on.
You look like shit. You had to look like shit.
Oh, yeah. Broke out in a rash.
Oh.
So we had to lay down some ground rules. Do the Barry scenes first, then do the Flash scenes. If you have to, do the Flash scenes and then the Barry. But we don't go Flash, Barry, Flash, Barry, Flash, Barry.
Wow.
And I would have been able to make some more requests going into a second season just to preserve myself. I had an awesome, I always mention Dane Farwell. He was my stunt double, and he was as much the Flash as I was. Right. I was Barry Allen, but Dane was a rock, So I went to back to New York, and I did Dancing at Lunacell on Broadway. It won the Tony as Best Play. I went in with the American cast, and Howard Stringer at corporate CBS was at the Tony Awards, and he came up and introduced himself to me and apologized for how badly they had mishandled the show.
Wow. I mean, when you look back, you studied opera. I still can't believe it. If I said, La Donna Mobile, what would you say?
I would say, well, first of all, I think of Pavarotti because it's a tenor aria. And I can't remember exactly what opera it's from, but it's a tenor aria, and Pavarotti made it famous.
Can you jump into it? Can you jump into that voice whenever you want? Is it something you can just jump into?
Not so much now. I mean, there are certain things that happen physiologically, particularly if you're not practicing every day.
It's a muscle.
What used to be a spin is now a wide wobble.
Right.
I mean, we all hear that, and it happens in every voice, Yeah. And so, whereas I used to sing constantly, and I would do recitals, and we do studio recitals, and I keep it for myself. But now I don't. It's becoming so hard to even just practice for my own satisfaction because it's physiologically just gotten so difficult.
Yeah, I always admire people who have done soap operas and you've won awards, because to me, it's something I could not do. To me, it seems like the hardest thing in the world. You have to memorize 20, 30 pages a day. And it terrifies me. It terrifies me, the thought of doing that. And I know James Franco got on the soap and he wanted to do it, and he really, put everything into it. But did you like doing soaps, or were you, was it an exhausting thing to do?
It wasn't exhausting. Of course, I was 24, it's like when I was on Guiding Light, 25. And no, it wasn't exhausting. And I listened to the people who had been on a long time, who had a method for dealing with it. You read the script, you take all of your scenes out, you put them in chronological order, and then you look at the week's work and you budget out, okay, I have to do this scene, these, no, because you do an episode a day. And then you do 4 or 5 episodes that week. And the night before, you study your week's work if you're lucky enough to have the scripts that far in advance. And then the night before, you work on the script for the next day. What was tough was for 4 months while I was doing Dancing at Lunasa 8 times a week on Broadway, I was playing this crazy character on All My Children at the same time who was peaking out at 30, 40 pages.
Wait a minute. As dialogue. You're doing Broadway, you're also doing the soap at the same time.
I would go to ABC at 7 a.m. and I'd shoot all day, except on matinee days. I'd shoot until there'd be a car to take me to do the matinee. They'd take me back to ABC. I'd shoot in the afternoon, and they'd take me back to do the evening performance. It was and then I'd do the performance. I'd go home and I'd tweak all my lines. And I'd say, well, how about this? It was one of the most energizing times of my life. And I ended up hemorrhaging a vocal cord, at the end of that. But it was very exciting. That character, interestingly enough, Carter Jones and All My Children, served as the basis of a thesis at a major university on, my character was very violent, very misogynistic and abusive toward women, and how at the same time there was a fascination with that character and a repulsion, and the intersection of those two things. I couldn't believe what we were doing on daytime TV then. They'd never be able to do it now. Even when I went back to play Eddie Ford in 2010 on One Life to Live, it was great fun, but I couldn't even believe what we were saying. Pansy ass boys, you're a bitch of a mother, you're all this on daytime TV.
Yeah. That's crazy. Do you ever get stressed in terms of, do you ever get anxiety or with work, or always trying to be great or proving yourself? Do you think that sort of never ends? Is that something you've dealt with in your career, or have you, never really dealt with a lot of anxiety?
No, it's sometimes I wonder why. Because you move from anxiety. I'll talk about myself, move from anxiety to anxiety. There's a period when you don't have a part. The anxiety is, am I going to get an audition? Right. Then you get an audition. The anxiety, am I going to do well? And then the anxiety of, did I get the part? You have 5 minutes of I got the part. And then anxiety.
Right. Now I have to do it. Is it going
to be, because you're always, it's one reason I moved back to New York. You're always as good as your next project. Right. Well, what are you doing next? It's like, how about if I do this right now? Yeah. How about if I talk to Michael
right now? Be present, damn it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, yeah. It's, but I remember in those wonderful letters from Martha Graham to Agnes DeMille, where one of them says to the other, there's never any satisfaction whatsoever at any time. There's only a sort of divine, queer dissatisfaction.
That's so sad.
Yeah, and a sense that there's a life force moving through us that maybe propels us to walk, I'm paraphrasing now horribly, at a pace maybe faster than the others as an artist, But yeah.
Do you enjoy?
I can relate to them.
Do you enjoy, honestly, being on the set of the Flash and playing these characters and working with Grant and Tom and all these other people? Do you have an actual good time? Is it a time in your life that you're like, I'm really enjoying this. I'm enjoying going to work. I like the character I'm playing. I like what I'm doing. I like being on the show. Is that how you feel?
Yeah. Yeah, it is mostly, particularly, but then I was mostly just working with Grant. And I knew with him playing the son who was the only one that believed that his father was innocent and me being in prison, it would carve out a very special relationship for us in the middle of an action adventure right at the amusement park. The lights go down, the music hushes, we walk into the phone booth, we pick up the phones, we can't do our business. We're sitting there. All we can do is memorize the words, look at each other, make a connection, and tell the truth, And those were wonderful. And I enjoyed it while I was doing it. I appreciated it pretty soon after we did it, Grant was very funny because I saw him at the upfronts in New York, and he had seen the pilot and I hadn't. And he was like, man, have you seen the pilot? Did you see our scene? You know, the big scene with the hand on the glass and the father-son moment. And I said, no. How is it? He said, man, I was sitting there going, you can't cry. You can't cry on your own scene. It's so uncool to cry at your own scene.
So Grant wanted to cry after watching it. Did you when you watched it?
Going,
Did you cry when you watched it?
I don't remember, but I remember being moved. They did something really interesting to get me on the edge of my emotions. David Nutter, director, Andrew Kreisberg, Jeff
Nutter.
Johns, Greg Berlanti. We went in to do that scene in the prison, and David came up to me and said, we've written some lines that we didn't want you to see or hear for Grant, until this moment. And it's my shot. So don't come in on your cue. Don't come in until he says the words, whatever it was, I love you, Dad. And I'm sitting there. Well, see, now I'm really listening. You know, Meisner would have been so pleased. I was riveted, yeah. What's he going to say? And he gets to the part where he says, you remember when you told me to change my name because you didn't want anyone to associate me with you? Well, I'm glad I didn't change my name. I am proud of you, and I am proud to be your son. I lost it. So much so that it was unusable. But we said, do it again right away. Don't cut tape. Just do it again. And I was able to manage the emotion, and it was still there. People said, how did you work up the emotion for those father-son scenes? I said, the problem wasn't working up the emotion. The problem was not letting the emotion run away with you, so that you're up there having a wonderful masturbatory experience and the audience is going, God, I wish you'd leave room for me.
True. Because I think, somebody told me once, if you're doing a scene where you have to, cry, you should think of not crying, because most people don't want to cry and they end up crying. So you're really trying not to cry. And that is what really affects people, I think. I think that sort of reaction. What were the lines? Yeah, go ahead.
It's like playing drunk.
Yeah.
People who are drunk are trying not to look drunk.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Most often, unless you're really obnoxious,
Hey, what were the lines? What were the lines they gave you? Do you remember?
Which ones? The one that I had not heard?
Yes.
The ones that I said.
Oh, those.
Those were the ones he was telling me. Well, see, that hit me on a number of levels, because our show went one season, and I knew that they might want to cut ties with the past in order to have a present and a future show that hopefully would be as big a commercial success as creative success, which is what I hoped for Grant. And when he lit into those words, you remember when you wanted me to change my name because you didn't want anyone to associate me with you. Well, I am glad that I didn't change my name. I'm proud of you, and I'm proud to be your son. Then, is Grant talking to John? Is New Flash talking to Old Flash?
Right.
Or is Barry talking to his dad? It all collided.
Right. That's pretty amazing. Inside of You is brought to you by Keeps. These guys are wonderful, especially, look, Ryan, 2 out of 3 men will experience some form of hair loss by the time they are 35.
Oh, boy.
More than 50 million men in the U.S. suffer from male pattern baldness, and there are only 2 FDA-approved medications that can prevent hair loss. Keeps offers both. That's right. Keeps offers a simple, stress-free way to keep your hair. Convenient virtual doctor consultations and medications delivered straight to your door every 3 months. You don't have to leave your home. And you know how much I don't like to leave my home. Low-cost treatments start at just $10 per month, and Keeps offers generic versions. Discreet packaging and proven results. Keeps has more 5-star reviews than any of its competitors. Prevention is key. Treatments can take up to 4 to 6 months to see results, so act fast. I have so many friends, Ryan, who are going bald. They're like, I don't know, should I shave it? Should I this? I'm like, why don't you try Keeps first and see how it works for you, and then you can decide. It's simple. Take a shot at something that works and is FDA approved. Am I wrong here?
I agree.
Thank you. If you're ready to take action and prevent hair loss, go to Keeps, KEEPS.com/inside of you to receive your first month of treatment for free. That's KEEPS, Keeps.com/inside of you to get your first month free. KEEPS.com/inside of you. Inside of You is brought to you by BetterHelp. Boy, this company has helped so many people. It's helped me. It's helped Ryan here. If you don't know about BetterHelp, just listen up. If you're dealing with any kind of depression, anxiety, work overload, you got a lot on your mind, you just need to get it out. Ryan, we've talked about this. You're still doing BetterHelp.
Still doing BetterHelp.
It's still helping you.
Still
you
helping.
seem like in better spirit. I'm not just saying that, but you can tell.
BetterHelp helps you get better.
It really does. It really does. And I like these guys. They've stuck with me because I think it's working. I think people are listening. And, I notice a lot of my patrons, they'll respond like, hey, BetterHelp's really cool. Thanks for introducing me to it. And it's just one of those sponsors it's not even a hard sell. It's like, it's so easy to like, do you want to feel better about yourself? Do you want to fix things that you don't like about yourself? BetterHelp is there. If you're feeling depressed or struggling with uncertainty or having difficulty sleeping, BetterHelp offers experienced therapists who can listen and they can help. And you can start communicating in 48 hours or less. There's a broad range of expertise available, which may not be locally available in many areas. The service is available for clients worldwide. You can log into your account anytime, send a message to your counselor, and you'll get timely and thoughtful responses. Plus, you can schedule weekly video or phone sessions, so you won't ever have to sit in an uncomfortable waiting room as with traditional therapy. BetterHelp is committed to facilitating great therapeutic matches, so they'll make it easy and free to change counselors if needed. If you have, did you have to change a counselor?
I did, but that was only because he left the service.
Oh, he left the service.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. You meet somebody, a lot of times you're like, I'm not comfortable with this person, right?
Uh-huh.
It's so easy. You just change. They'll help you change immediately. And this is common. This happens. You might meet the therapist of your life,
Of your dreams.
but you'll find the right one. It's more affordable than traditional offline counseling, and financial aid is available, and that's for damn sure. So many people have been using BetterHelp that they're recruiting additional counselors in all 50 states. Don't even take my word for it. Just do it. Take Ryan's word for it if you want, because we really believe in this place, BetterHelp Online Therapy. And here's all you have to do. It's pretty easy. Inside of You is sponsored by BetterHelp Online Therapy, and our listeners get 10% off their first month of online therapy at betterhelp.com/inside. That's betterhelp.com/inside. Get matched with a BetterHelp therapist and get started. Do you when you look back, did you think that Dawson's Creek was going to be a hit? Right away from
I did.
You did?
I did.
Why is
because
that?
I didn't do the pilot presentation. I was off in Moab, Utah for 5 weeks doing The Lost Treasure of Dos Santos with David Carradine, Lee Majors, Kathy Lee Crosby,
Wow.
and Michelle Green.
Wow.
It's a movie that you will never see.
I don't know. I might now.
They decided to go a different way with the dad after
Right.
the pilot presentation and after it was picked up. Don't feel bad for that actor, because the next thing I know, I'm sitting in a movie with Al Pacino, and I got Dawson's Creek. He got the movie with Al Pacino. Okay, so
I don't. Well, the TV show lasts longer than a movie. A movie is
It's
kind of there
true.
and it's gone.
It's true, but they had me watch it, the pilot presentation, and I knew immediately. And we forget this because it became such a pop cultural phenomenon. We forget how unusual it was at the beginning to have a show in which the kids were talking like that. We're dealing emotionally and internally with issues and trying to express them in a vocabulary that very few kids had. I remember a big star said to Kevin Williamson one time, "Kids don't talk like that." And without hesitation, he shot back, "Maybe not, but they'd like to."
Wow.
So it was Wilmington, North Carolina. The creek was an actual character in the show. The waters of that, southeastern coastal waterway town. And the issues that they were dealing with. I mean, people forget it was the critically acclaimed Dawson's Creek the first couple of seasons.
Sure.
you know.
Oh yeah.
And I knew immediately, I thought, wow, this is special. And then I talked to Kevin Williamson, and he said, I promise I won't turn you into, I'm going to say the name of the show because that sounds disparaging, a certain kind of TV parent. He said, you will have real subsidiary, but independent storylines that intersect with and inform what the kids are going through. You won't just be mom and dad in the kitchen saying, have a good day at school,
Right.
you know? And he was as good as his word, you know, because there were some really intense episodes.
Yeah, I even watched it. I remember watching. I couldn't help but watch it. I had to watch that show. And I mean, I ended up working with Josh in a movie called Urban Legend. But did you get along with everybody? I mean, obviously you worked with James a little more, right?
Yeah. I worked with James the most. It was interesting to see these young actors, and I think we benefited from being in North Carolina, out of the glare of LA, you know, because these young actors went from relative unknowns to, I mean, superstardom, and their faces on the covers of all these magazines that fast,
Right.
you know, and to watch the way they handled it. I mean, I remember James, when he signed his first autograph, had to go tell Mary Margaret Humes about it. She played his mom.
Right.
And when his movie Varsity Blues came out, his parents weren't in town, so he asked Mary Margaret and I to go with him to see it.
Wow.
So
that is pretty damn cool. So he asked his TV parents to go with him to the premiere for Varsity Blues. That's pretty sweet. That's pretty damn sweet. Now I bet his parents were upset. They're like, "We would have come." Jesus.
Well, it wasn't the premiere, but it was a showing in North Carolina, you know.
Yeah.
It was very, very sweet. But it was also interesting to watch. You work with Josh. You know, Josh has a very different way of working from James, who at that time was very cerebral, you know, very, very emotionally logical. I mean, I was watching this young man. Of course, he had worked with Edward Albee as a playwright on a play.
Wow.
So I mean, he knew the work, and he would have notes after a script read through, and some people were offended by that, but Kevin Williamson, and I found this with writers and producers who are really secure, he was open to the notes. He said, yeah, but 98% of the time he's right.
Wow.
You know?
Yeah.
So, but it was really interesting. And in the lives of those young people, to see how what they were playing on screen was mirroring what was happening off camera, you know?
What do you mean?
And
what do you mean?
I don't know to say any more about
that. Some of them were seeing each other, right?
Yeah. And they'd break up and then they'd get together in different, you know.
Was that hard on set? Was there like some stuff that went on?
I have a feeling that by 4th, 5th, 6th season, a combination of things happened. Number one, they were getting all these other offers.
Right.
They wanted to make the leap to what was next. And whatever character conflicts, personalities, different way of working, accommodations that they had to make to work with each other, began to really grind on, to irritate them. So I was very happy to leave in, I think it was the 4th or 5th episode of the 5th season, you know, where my character died eating an ice cream cone, which was kind of hilarious because I was known as the ice cream man on set. I devoured ice cream anytime I was there. But
were you upset when you died? Did Kevin call you and said, "Hey, this is going to be it"?
Kevin was gone by that point. Kevin was gone. He left after season 2. And Greg Berlanti came in for a while. And then, but I knew after season 4 that there was going to be a shift because the kids were going to go to college. and they would leave the creek. And sure enough, at the end of season 4, they let all the adults' contracts lapse. And they asked us for 6 episodes instead of 19. And I thought, this has been such a rich and wonderful experience. You know, I don't want to go back and be holding the new baby Lily and waving at Parents' Day. You know, I just didn't want it to turn into that.
Right.
And so I set my price really high, expecting that they wouldn't meet it. And everybody went to start season 5, and I was fine. I was in LA. I had 4 great seasons under my belt, and I felt ready to move forward. And I think during the filming of the first or second episode, the WB shut them down because they didn't have any story. And Paul Stupin called me in LA, producer, and said, "Can I have coffee with you?" And so I said, "Sure." I figured something was up. And he said, "Here's the deal." And so we were wondering if you would come back. We know you've been a little bit unhappy the last season or 2 with the diminishing role the parents were taking. But if we promise you 2 great scripts and the money you're asking, will you come back? Okay. I'm like, yeah. And kill the character. It's like, but they were as good as their word. Again, those are 2 of my favorite episodes. And it was such a respectful and affectionate farewell to a character. I couldn't imagine. It really validated, it really made me feel that the previous 4 years had been about something special.
Right.
You know? And so I felt that it ended exactly the right way for everybody. It gave James, it propelled him to therapy. They made it so there was an incident. I won't go into it. He was responsible for what I went out to do when I was killed in the car accident. You know, Mary Margaret had all of the parental duties instead of splitting them.
Right.
And she played those scenes so wonderfully, the funeral. And then I had a 6 Feet Under episode where I came back and I did visitations with all the kids and sort of wrapped up my relationships with them in The Long Goodbye, it was called. So yeah, no, it felt exactly right.
Do you think it's, do you remember the first time you were told that you're going to play or you're going to audition for a parent or someone like, because you go from this transition of like, I still feel young. I'm young. And then they're like, oh, you're going to be the parent of this in this audition. Oh, I'm going in for the dad now. Do you remember that first dad role?
No. Only reason I do is because somebody else. My first dad was in 1989 playing Barney Bucks in Neverending Story 2, Father of Sebastian. So I started playing dads 9 years into my professional career.
Wow.
At the age of 30. You know, 89. I was born in 55. So I was 34, 35. And I didn't think anything of it until people were like, oh, particularly Dawson's, oh, are you going to be okay playing a dad? I'm like, why wouldn't I be? You know, is it a good part?
Yeah.
You know, and I've played superheroes and psychopaths ever since.
Yeah.
You know?
Do you keep in touch with anybody from Dawson's?
Mary Margaret.
That's
and
about
I've done appearances with Mary Margaret Humes. And I did a pilot in Chicago with Katie Holmes.
Yeah.
What was that, 2018? Where she was an FBI agent, but it didn't go. We thought it was going to go, but it.
So she didn't invite you to the Tom Cruise wedding when they got married?
No.
You weren't married to that? You and Tom could have jumped around on the couch together. It could have been just a real treat.
No.
By the way, you went to Indiana University and you went to high school in Louisville. I grew up in Indiana and went to college at Western Kentucky University.
Oh, did you really? So
yeah.
we swapped.
You went to smarter schools, though. Oh no, I love Western Kentucky, but I got
Western Kentucky.
The Hilltoppers of Western Kentucky. Oh yeah. All right, so this is called Shit Talking with John Wesley Shipp, or I could change it to Ship Talking for this
with
particular
John Wesley.
Right.
We won't do.
So these are questions. These are questions from my fellow patrons who love you, and they get to ask questions. So here we go. Steph A. Is Flash your personal favorite superhero, or is there someone else you like more?
Well, I have to hats off. Tim Burton's Batman and the Flash were being developed at Warner Brothers at the same time around a new aesthetic for presenting these superheroes. Dark, brooding. We went darker with the Flash than the Flash really is. In fact, Carmen Infantino, who drew the Flash, groused at one point. He said, they're making the Flash so dark. Flash not supposed to be that dark. Everything's all shot at night and all the streets are wet, But we felt we had to do that because we had to ground it in some grit to have people take it seriously. So I would say if I had another favorite, it would be Batman,
Yeah. Betsy D says, are you excited to be reprising the role of Jay Garrick? And I know I'm thrilled to see you again on Stargirl.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Jay Garrick is the role. When they asked me to come back and get back in a new version of the 1990s suit for Elseworlds and then Crisis in 2018, I was like, are you out of your minds? I'm like, that was 28 years ago, right? But I think we pulled it off. But Jay is the character that I feel is the appropriate part for me to play now, because in the comics, he's really in his 90s, but he was exposed to age-reversing chemicals, which lands him in his mid-late 50s.
Right.
So that's the character that I enjoy exploring. Second, Henry Allen was still my favorite.
Ryan, I mean, Ryan's my engineer. He's here. Have you seen most episodes of The Flash?
No.
You've seen a lot of them, though.
I have seen a lot, yes.
And do you want to ask John a question? Come on, you got to have something for him.
Oh, he's like, no, I
don't. How's
on the spot there?
No, he'll get it. Watch this.
How's Grant Gustin as a human being?
Good question. He was on this podcast. I could tell you, but but you work with him closely. So how is that?
Yeah, I have to say it was as I've already said, it was one of the most rewarding experiences, because people always ask me what Grant is like, but Grant works from his truth. So what you see, there's a fun, there's a spark, and there's an exquisite vulnerability. And a real dedication to trying, whether it's a superhero context or whether it's one of his independent films, whatever it is, to treat it like we're trying to get to the truth of something here. And let's work together. And he does get irritated if someone is not on that wavelength.
If someone's not taking this seriously, or someone's not on.
Yeah, I mean, because I ran into this when I went back to daytime in 2010 for 4 months. I mean, people walking the halls going, well, soap opera job. And I'm like, that attitude will kill anything you have to offer. Any creative impulse you might have, that attitude will kill it.
Yeah.
People say, what's your favorite role you've ever done? I said, the one I'm doing right now, whatever it is my favorite. And whether it's daytime TV, when the audience had shrunk considerably by 2010, we were having 22 million viewers a week in the early 80s. By 2010, it was like maybe 1 million viewers an episode. But whether it was that or the Tony Award-winning play on Broadway or Primetime or the drug-addicted cop on NYPD Blue or running around at my age in a superhero suit, whatever it is.
It's that moment.
That's my favorite.
Wow. That's a great answer. Leanne P. Love the episodes where Mark Hamill guest starred back on The Flash. Any fun memories you have about him that you would like to share? Because he's a character.
Well, Mark was really helpful to me, because I've already told you I was very reticent to go into a superhero suit. So I was like, I don't want to have any lines in the suit. I don't want any B-roll in the suit. I don't want to have to cowl back and have eating a Hostess Twinkie and drinking a Diet Coke. I don't want to turn into a mascot.
Right.
So I was pretty stiff. Well, here comes Mark as the trickster, you know, balls to the wall.
Oh, yeah.
No whole, I mean, just total 100% commitment. And I'm like, well, if Mark Hamill can commit to that degree, then I need to get over my bad self, you know? And I think by the last episode of the show, The Trial of the Trickster, when he's mind controlling the Flash, I was able, you know, I'm catching bullets from the police and throwing bullets back at the police, which we could never do today. And knocking over parking meters and, you know, being his sidekick. I was actually able to relax and have some fun. But in the news show, he comes back as the trickster in the news show. And we go to Earth 3 and he's shooting bullets at a bank robbery and I'm catching them in my helmet. And I show him the bullets in my helmet and I say, "You're out of bullets." And he opens his coat and he's wired with a bomb. And he says, "Yeah, but I'm not out of bombs." And our faces are this close. And they yell cut. And he says, "We're grown-ups."
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. Raj says, is there a moment in your career you can point to as the time where you felt you had achieved success in the industry? Now, this is a tough question because, you know, that moment that's good enough that you felt like I have made it and whatever happens afterwards or the downs, the ups, the downs. But, you know, I think about that sometimes. But how would you answer that?
It's a process of it rolls out, right? Because I started in daytime. I remember when I won the first Emmy for Good Guy Going to Psychopath, Douglas Cummings, opposite Julianne Moore, was my leading lady. I remember Jane Elliott. Do you know Jane? Jane Elliott, actress. She had said to me, because she had an Emmy on General Hospital, she said, "Well, you have your Emmy now. You have nothing left to prove." I was like, boy, I can't wrap my head around that. I had constantly things to prove. And then I got a primetime show that I was at the center of, and that was a lot to prove, you know. And then there was a completely 180-degree opposite character on NYPD Blue, a lot to prove. And then theater, every step of the way. And then once you've established yourself, I was going to say made it, but you never make it. Then you have to prove if you're still interesting and relevant. In other words, am I going to show up on the set of The Flash in the Flash 90 costume and everyone's going to go, "When's lunch?" You know? Now, as it turned out, everyone was so invested in the comics that Grant was like, "This is the coolest thing we've ever done," you know, and the executive producers were, I mean, they really enjoyed it. But no, you never feel. What about you?
I think, you know, when I hear that question, it's weird where my mind goes. I think, hey, you had a lot of success, you had fun, you made some money, you made people happy. If I died right now, I'd be like, hey, I had success. That was, I mean, what level of success? There's millions of levels. I mean, I could say, I'm not going to be successful until I win an Oscar, or I'm not going to be successful, because then you're going to be chasing even past that Oscar. It's just not, it's not tangible. You have to find something inside of you that really, you know, you have to be proud of yourself. You have to, you know, I'm learning to be proud of myself, learning to love yourself. And I think that's how you kind of figure it out. And you go, what is success? Well, I've had success. Look at what you've done, instead of trying to chase something that you think is going to give you, you know, happiness. So it's a tough question for me. That's where my mind goes. So
I think that's healthy. It's something that I, as I've gotten older, have had to practice. You know, I've had to practice remembering that over the course of a 40-year career, I've gotten to do things that have been really incredible. And I've worked with wonderful people, and I've contributed honestly and sincerely to the best of my ability at the time in whatever project. I love the halfway through David Copperfield by Charles Dickens. He does a reassessment of his life. And one of his great achievements, he says, is never to have put one hand onto something, onto which I could throw my entire self. And that sort of has been, ever since I read that, that's been my mantra.
Wow.
Enthusiasm. Isn't that incredible?
Yeah, say that again.
Never to put one hand to something, onto which I could throw my entire self.
Isn't that something?
That, and this ties into what I said about soaps, never to affect a depreciation of any work that I was given to do, whatever it was, have been the hallmarks of my life. He goes on to say something like that. But those two statements.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Big Stevie W, last question. What's the one thing you have yet to accomplish, but is high on the bucket list for you? Is there anything that you're like, I'd like to do that?
I think this goes back to managing expectations. Things seem to appear when I'm ready to do them. You know what I mean? Whether it's the powder burns, the wonderful project David Gregory did, where we won an award, the Sophus Award for radio drama, where I'm all Rizzle Sheriff and Ed Asner was on it and stuff. Or there's a wonderful play that David has written about the lifelong friendship of Henry Fonda and Jimmy Stewart, despite vast political differences, which I didn't realize or know about the extent of, and romantic rivalries. And it's called Hank and Jim Build a Plane, because every Sunday they get together and they build model airplanes, whether they were speaking, whether they were fighting over politics, whether Jimmy was talking potentially to the House Un-American Activities, or Jane was going to Hanoi. Whatever it was, and it becomes a metaphor for how do we cobble together and stay in relationship with people with whom we have vast ideological differences. So if ever there was a valuable message for today, and that was the play that we workshopped in New Orleans.
Right.
We have Jack Batman and Bruce at Sunny Spot shepherding that project. Well, they're multiple Tony Award-winning producers, Broadway producers. So, and that was interrupted for a year because of COVID. But we hope to get that back on track this coming winter. So, other than wanting to continue to play a variety of interesting people, I don't necessarily care where it is. One of the most rewarding recent experiences I've had was doing 12 Angry Men at the Judson Theater Playhouse in Pinehurst, North Carolina. Working with the best juror number 3 I will ever see. And the two of us going up against each other,
Wow.
And doing it there was I think a Morehouse scholarship thing, 5 high schools where they bought them to play, and they studied it according to the Constitution and what of the Bill of Rights issue was being brought up all through 12 Angry Men. Interesting now that I'm playing Henry Fonda in Hank and Jim, and they were right there with us. They didn't miss a beat.
That's amazing.
And at the end, they were, that is as rewarding to me as any high profile project I've ever done.
Yeah. Isn't that something?
So as long as there are interesting parts and I don't drive myself too crazy, but it's, you said it, and it's a practice. I have to practice reminding myself that I have contributed in meaningful ways on a variety of platforms. Yeah. And am I an A-lister? Absolutely not.
Oh yeah, believe me, I'm working on this. I think you without a doubt have. And I think it's also, you have to practice that. For me, I'm trying to practice of just enjoy this. You said it in the very beginning of the podcast. You said, I'm here with you. I'm just enjoying this moment with you. If I could learn how to do that more, where I'm just with my dog, or I'm just with my friends, or now it's work, or now if I could just enjoy instead of going through the motions or going through these moments trying to get to the next moment, I'm missing everything. So that's what I'm working on. Believe me, it's a work in fucking progress, brother.
Absolutely.
So, but look, this has been a real treat. I'm glad you don't do a lot of podcasts, huh?
No, not many. I have done some, but
this is great.
It's like I tell people at conventions, my Q&As. I'm like, if you've been to a couple of my Q&As before, I apologize. There are only so many answers before I start making shit up. So
that's amazing. Oh, I love it. Well, this was great. I really we kind of went over a lot of things, and I feel like
it's been great.
It's been great. I feel like I got to know you in this hour, and I really appreciate this, and I can't wait to give you a hug at a con because I am vaxxed now. Are you vaxxed?
Fantastic. Me too.
We're gonna hug it out. And if you're doing a play, if you're doing something, if I'm near, you just got to let me know when you're doing it. If I'm close, I want to come see you perform. I'd love to see you as Henry Fonda.
Excellent.
It'd be awesome.
I'll let you know. Absolutely.
Right. Well, give Grant my love and everybody on The Flash, and all my best to you. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Thanks, Michael.
All right, John.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for listening to the podcast today. I really enjoyed his interview. I thought he was very open. I was surprised.
He was nice. It was really cool to hear about his journey,
his adventure with Mark Hamill, and just his journey and how he gets in his head. And again, I like when guests open up. Thank you. Make sure you follow us if you like the show at Inside You Podcast on the Facebook and Instagram, at Inside You Pod on the Twitter. If you want to join the lovely Patreon to help the podcast even more, I'd be delighted. I'll send you a message right after. It's patreon.com/inside of you. And a lot of great guests coming up. I've been working hard to get you good guests, and I do the best I can. Fuck Ryan. I just do the best I can. I get guests that, I can get, or I have to work at, but I still get. And, people seem to be pretty happy. They always have their requests, and, they email over at hello@insideyoupodcast.com, and they leave messages, which I check here and there. Not that often, but I get your messages, and sometimes I can write back, sometimes I don't, but don't think I haven't read your stuff. And I appreciate you listening and taking your time to write me. And sometimes they're really long emails. So if I just say, hey, thanks so much for this, I read it. I just didn't write another novel back to you. So I thank you. Yes. Why don't we get into the top tier patrons? These are the people who really help the podcast help the podcast a great deal. They really do. And I don't know if I could do this without them. Thank you to Cumulus. Thank you for Ryan for being my madman over here. Thanks for Jason. Jason's taking over editing for you because you've been busy as hell.
Jason has taken over the editing, and he's doing a great job.
And
I thank him for doing that.
Jason, we love you, man. Thank you so much for doing this, and keep up the great work. Everybody give Jason a shout out. And Bryce, who really does a lot of social media and tries to get the podcast out there. It's a great team, and I'm happy to be a part of it. Let's do the top patrons. Here we go. Nancy.
D.
Leah.
Shit. S.
Trisha.
F.
Sarah.
V.
Little.
Lisa.
U.
Kiko.
Jill.
E.
Brian.
A.
Mama. Lauren.
G.
Nico.
P.
Jerry.
W.
Robert.
B.
No.
I.
It's L. I think it's an L.
Oh no, it's an I.
Is it an I?
Yeah, it's just the long skinny one.
Yeah.
I think that's an I.
It is.
Yeah.
It is an I. You're right. Jason.
W.
Apothean, Kristen K, Amelia O, Allison L, Raj, Joshua
D.
Emily
S.
CJ
P.
Samantha M, Jennifer N, Stacy L, Jen S, Jamal F, Janelle B, Carrie B, Tabitha 272, not to be confused with
Tabitha 273,
Kimberly E, Mike E, Eldon Supremo 99 more, Ramira, Santiago M, Sarah F, Chad W, Leanne P, Janine
R.
Yes, Maya P, Maddie S, Shannon D, Belinda N, Kevin V, James
Vanderbeek.
R.
All right.
Vanderbeek. Chris H, Dave H, Sheila G, Brad D, Ray H, Tabitha T, Liliana A, Michelle.
Okay.
Yes, Michael S, Talia M. It's harder when I go randomly like this.
It is.
Betsy D, Claire M, Laura L, Chad L, Rochelle. That rhyme. Chad L, Rochelle. Nathan E, Marion, Meg K, Janelle P, Trav
L.
Wow. Dan N, Lorraine G, Carrie
B.
H, Veronica K, Big Stevie
W.
Kendall T, Angel M, Rhiannon
C.
Yes, Corey K, Super Sam, Coleman G, Deb Nexon, Michelle A, Liz L, Liz I, Lizai. Jeremy C, Andy T, Cody R, Sebastian K, Gavinator, Ann H, David C, Elliot M, John B, Brandy D,
What?
Yavor, Camille S,
Joey.
Bono.
Oh, Bono.
Or Bano. Bono. The Chief, Joey M, Willie F, Christina E, Adelaide N. I thank you guys all from the bottom of my hearts. And if I ever send you a box for the top tier patrons and you don't get it, it gets sent back to me, and then I have to figure out the right address because something happened. And you know what sucks is usually I have to pay again to ship this box, and if it's overseas, but sometimes the address is not right, or it gets like messed around for 2 months and then it gets sent back. First world problems, man. First world problems. Hey, I thank you for listening to the podcast. I thank you for allowing me to get inside of you guys each and every day. You guys mean a lot to me, and I like doing this thing, so hopefully we'll keep it going. And I appreciate all the feedback and all the love that you guys share constantly with me. And Ryan, love you, buddy.
Love you too.
From Michael Rosenbaum.
From Ryan Tejas.
Here in the
Hollywood Hills of
California. What's up, guys? Thanks so much for being here. Thanks for allowing me to be inside of each and every one of you. And until next week, let's be healthy. Let's rock it out and bring some friends along to listen to the podcast, will you? All right. Thanks.